Hi everyone, it's me Puzzle, and today we're going to discuss cut content in Silent Hill 2. We covered a lot of Easter eggs in the last episode, but did you know that Silent Hill could have been completely different? There were removed story episodes, redesigned locations, several beta versions, as well as minor changes in cutscenes and level design. Of course, this information pertains more to the original version, but the remake is so close to it that I think everyone will be interested in these changes, and I'll even show you some cut locations, for example. The psychological horror Silent Hill 2, released in 2001, is most details about the game's development are still kept secret. However, by analyzing early screenshots, bonus materials from making of cycles, E3 videos, and footage from beta versions, we can see changes made by Team Silent from the announcement to retail. By studying developers' diaries and notes, we learned that the scene of Maria's death was changed. In the early version, she was supposed to die in a prison, not in a hospital. In the scene where James jumps into a dark hole, Maria was impaled, but the developers altered this episode as they felt it didn't match the overall tone of the game. Ultimately, the character's death was shown through a crack in the elevator doors. The developers didn't want to depict violence so overtly, so only a piece of that scene remained in the final version. The scene with Eddie was also changed. During the first encounter with James, he was supposed to shoot a person, injure him, and drag him to a fridge. Then Eddie would brutally kick the screaming victim to death. Afterward, he would start to vomit and James would appear in the frame.
He? Oh, you mean the man back there? In the kitchen?
I didn't do it. I swear I didn't kill him.
Additionally, 3 more story scenes were completely cut from the game. By the way, we talked a bit about some of the changes and cuts in yesterday's episode on secrets. If you haven't seen that video yet, be sure to check it out after this one. In one of the cutscenes, James passes through another town before reaching Silent Hill and stops at a gas station to ask for directions. Team Silent removed this episode and decided to start the game directly in Silent Hill. However, they didn't completely abandon the gas station scene. Director Christoph Gans used it in the 2006 adaptation. A different cutscene was planned for the meeting with Angela. In the hospital corridor, she was supposed to attack James, thinking he was a monster. After James told her he was human, Angela would calm down, and a dialogue would begin between the characters. In the end, Angela was made less aggressive, and the scene was moved to the cemetery at the very beginning of the game. Another fragment was cut from the ending. In the Leave ending, James was supposed to adopt Laura and bury Mary. The hero partially mirrored the canonical ending of Harry Mason from the first Silent Hill, but the idea was ultimately abandoned in favor of focusing solely on Mary, feelings of guilt and forgiveness. During development, Team Silent significantly changed the location of Neely Street and cut some stores from it. Pre-release screenshots show how the street looked in the beta version. If we are to believe the game's producer Akihiro Imamura, buildings were removed from the final version due to the technical limitations of the PlayStation 2. The stores looked good in pre-release screenshots, however they had to be removed due to the high number of details. The PlayStation 2 simply didn't have enough memory, and Team Silent had to sacrifice content for stable horror gameplay. Aside from technical limitations, there was another reason: copyright issues. Most of the buildings shown in the screenshots were entirely redrawn from real stores in San Bruno, California. If Team Silent had left everything as originally designed, the publisher would have had to contract with the town's administration and expend additional resources. During the development of Silent Hill 2, Konami's American offices were located in Redwood City, California. Japanese developers flew into San Francisco International Airport, which is near San Bruno. This is how the Japanese made their way to Redwood City. San Bruno inspired the developers so much that they decided to transfer its streets into the game. In the final version of Silent Hill 2, some stores had their appearance slightly changed and colors altered, while others were renamed. The sign was also altered from Welcome to Welcome. And by the way, an interesting fact: the original version had quite a few grammatical errors since the developers were Japanese. They casually allowed mistakes in the English version of the game and included them right on the textures. For example, the parking sign in the game turned into perking. In the final version, the opening video was slightly changed. Overall, there are no significant differences. The cutscenes differ only in minor details, such as angles. In the scene in the hospital, developers added teddy bears on the table. Also, Laura's model in the beta is slightly different from the final version, making the girl look more like Mary and Maria. Maria herself also differs a bit from the final version, as does the color scheme in the rendered video, and the camera angles in the scene behind the bars were changed. The setting in the scene with Eddie and Laura was altered. The developers replaced the van with a table. In the shower scene, for some reason the blood was recolored, perhaps as a precaution against censorship. In early screenshots, Pyramid Head appeared in places where he is absent in the final version. It's quite possible that the monster was initially supposed to move freely through the location. For some reason, most likely technical, Team Silent decided to abandon this idea and began using the monster only where it was necessary for the plot. In addition, the cleaver disappeared from the monster's hands in the wardrobe scene. Along with this, several regular enemies were relocated in certain areas. Aside from the beta, there are several different versions of Silent Hill 2, a demo from E3 2001 and a Japanese trial version. In the E3 demo, the first half of Brookhaven Hospital was showcased. The demo was created based on a refined beta version of the game. In the demo, unlike the final version, Maria is not present in the level. It also has fewer items, fewer enemies, and the key to the elevator is much easier to obtain. It's likely that after the release of this version, the game designers continued to modify the game and make new decisions to enrich the location and make gameplay more interesting. For instance, the demo lacks the dashboard near the door. The doctor's robe, which conceals the key, is covered in blood. Also, it's easier to open the drawer in the demo. You only need the key and the lock code. The shotgun is not present in the locker, and there's no teddy bear with a needle inside. In addition to all of the above, the inventory was changed. In the demo, it resembles that of the first game more closely. Japanese trial version. In this version, there were different loading screens and an alternative menu. Also in the final version, some sounds were changed. 2 audio files with important story-related letters were cut from Silent Hill 2. In the final version, the text remained, but the files were omitted. The first audio is a voice letter from Laura, read by Mary's voice and dedicated to James. The second audio is a letter from Mary in which she tells James that she found a quiet place and often thinks of him. And of course, the logo. The first variation resembled the original Silent Hill logo with the number 2 carelessly added. Later, for the TGS 2000 trailer, the logo was slightly modified. The final version was significantly redesigned and was more connected to the theme of the game itself. In conclusion, we can say that there were many changes in the game, but all of them were small and did not alter the essence of the game. Team Silent made minor adjustments here, tweaked the environment or models there, and cut unnecessary scenes to create a smoother narrative. The changes reflect that the authors continually polished Silent Hill 2 and meticulously worked on every little detail. Thanks to the blood and sweat of the developers, the game rightfully became a hit and made it onto all possible lists of not only the best horrors, but also the best games overall. The remake continued the legacy of the original Silent Hill, and I hope that in the future we will see similar developer diaries from Bloober Team where they will share what they had to sacrifice to create the remake. That's all from me. Thanks for watching everyone, and I'll see you in the next video.